This is the original Firefighter Podcast, where we talk about anything you would talk about at the firehouse kitchen table. And sometimes we even talk about fighting fires. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to another edition of the original Firefighter Podcast. And in the studio today is myself, Will Peterson, and co-host Bill Nedved. We are going to have a conversation today about the 1 year anniversary of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. And also we're going to go into depth on the response to the flooding in Texas, which, as we know, is just been incredibly massive in the response effort. Also the tragedy, the loss of life, and those that are still missing. And the fact that we know that there are just hundreds of first responders and specialized teams that are in Texas right now that are searching for survivors and also for the missing. So we're going to cover those topics today. But as we said at the beginning here, this does mark the 1 year anniversary of the assassination attempt on President Trump's life. This was back when he was a candidate, obviously, going up against, well, at the time, it was kind of like a toss-up, right? It was like between, was President Biden going to stay in or Kamala Harris? But on this day, July 13th, in Butler, Pennsylvania, obviously there was a huge rally occurring in an open field, and somehow a lone gunman was able to get on top of a low slope roof and gain access to be able to make his attempt to kill the president of the United States. Now, I understand that he was at that time a candidate, but let's be clear, he was already president for one term, and now as our current president. Thank goodness he survived that attempt. But in the aftermath of what had happened that day, unfortunately, there was loss of life. We still think about Fire Chief Corey Comperstor. He was killed while shielding his family, according to the New York Post, the Daily Beast, New York Post, and other outlets. Very little information has still come out a year later as to what happened and how this actually came to fruition. How was this possible? And I know that I've seen some reports of Fire Chief Comperstor, Competor. His wife, Helen, has been just, demanding answers from the Secret Service and is basically getting nothing. So I just, Phil, what are you hearing about that on your end?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a shame that we're at the point where it's still unknown what actually happened, how this person was allowed to get where he was, gain access to the places he did, have a drone flying above prior to the rally itself, getting these weapons into certain areas. It's kind of insane to actually think about. Just recently, they did 6 Secret Service agents were suspended because of what happened that day. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's a slap on the wrist, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
They get a 40-some day suspension. That's right. Crazy that you were that inept, incompetent. Part of me thinks, don't always attribute to malice what you could attribute to incompetence. But man, that's some crazy incompetence all across the board for something like this to even happen or potentially happen. So it's, it's one of those things where it's unacceptable. It should have never happened. It should have never have gotten there. There were people pointing out certain things, and yet again, it comes from the top. We'll take care of that. Someone said, hey, what about that building? We'll take care of that building. Okay, well then everybody underneath thinks that's being handled by the person above them, and whoever that was in charge of that certain thing. And then they say, hey, there's someone on the building. Okay, we'll take care of that. And then it keeps pushing it out. It's like, well, I'm not going to do anything because someone's taking care of it. I mean, even the fact that they allowed him to take multiple shots, not one shot, multiple shots before the snipers engage that person, yet again, is something to where it's like, how does this even happen? Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, he struck, obviously he struck the president in the ear, a grazing shot there. And obviously we know that if it had just been himself turned his head just a little bit, millimeters, if you will, he'd been dead.
The big, beautiful graph saved my life.
I love that graph. And had he not turned the way he did his head, I mean, he would have been killed on live television, obviously. And then obviously to go further, we've already mentioned the fire chief who was killed while shielding his family. And I do want to just make note that I did mispronounce his name, Corey Competor. I'm saying it the best I can. I think that's the way it's said,
Yeah.
but he was protecting his family as anyone would do. But we've made mention on the show before that it's just completely terribly ironic that this is a person from the fire service. And so, I gotta I gotta hope that I would do the same, that you would do the same for your family. I think that most anybody would, regardless of their profession. But it's just so sad that he had a life of giving and protection for others, and he had to give his own life for that to his family for their protection. And
Yeah,
then there
that's
were
one of those things you
two others I
always,
think that were hit.
yeah, that's one of those things you always hope you react a certain way, and no one will ever know how you react until you're in that situation. Um,
Well, isn't that actually that's incredible that you bring that up, the reaction of people. I mean, let's break that down for a minute. The reaction from what we could see, right? Because we couldn't see, we're the viewing public and I was not there. So I could only
right.
take in a two-dimensional view of this situation unfolding. But to look at the reaction by the president himself as he stood there at the podium speaking. He knew that something that, I can't even imagine what that felt like, regardless of, people try to downplay, oh, it was just his ear. It's like, wow. I mean, talk about insensitive, but I don't expect that, anything less from certain outlets and certain sides of the politics. But his reaction, obviously, going down to the flooring of the stage, but then also his reaction after the shooting was over. And obviously, we all know about the famous, the fist bump and fight, fight, fight. You've got obviously the Secret Service directly on top of him, which, as it turns out, that one of those Secret Service agents in that infamous photo, famous photo now, but also the fact that one of those Secret Service is now the director of the Secret Service currently today. And to go a little bit further, you just mentioned how Corey reacted to protect his family. And then just the fact that all the people that you saw in the background, while had to have been such a scary situation, everybody stayed pretty calm. And that to me was pretty incredible.
I think the biggest reason that most people stayed calm is after they interviewed him, they thought there were fireworks or firecrackers. They didn't
Yeah.
realize it was gunfire. And I
Right.
think maybe there was even people that didn't react a certain way because they were in shock and they couldn't move even if they wanted to, kind of thing. Some people did kind of get down and duck.
Yeah.
Some people ran, but it is crazy to see everyone on stage. I mean, at least in the zoomed in portion, you didn't see many people run or react in a kind of crazy way,
Yeah.
I mean, so that, and yeah, it's all
Well,
reaction. Like Trump's reaction is the reaction of a strong man, a leader, someone that,
absolutely.
went down but got right back up, and
Yeah.
instinctual, right?
Yeah.
That was his instinct to stand back up even after that and say what he said, and
Yeah.
and pump his fist to make sure that everyone knew he was okay, right? Because
And
everyone's there
it
for
was a
him,
galvanizing moment. I mean, there's
100%.
been pundits out there that have said that once that happened, it really, I don't think that it was a cakewalk, regardless of who ended up, being the person he was going to go up against, whether Biden
Right.
stayed in or whether Kamala Harris, well, obviously we know that she did take over dubiously to be the Democratic candidate. But there are many, many pundits out there that have said that that moment was very galvanizing and it brought the Republican Party together in a very firm way. And it would be very difficult to overcome that moment.
Oh yeah.
And not end up with the fact that Donald Trump did become the 47th president. And I want to stick on topic here for our listeners and viewers that we're not necessarily attempting to have a too in-depth political conversation. I'm more focused on the fact that it is the 1 year anniversary. By the time this airs, obviously a few days will have gone by, but it's still the 1 year anniversary is upon us. And we still have very little answers. We know that there was gross incompetence. In fact, I think about the gross negligence and how that applies to like being a paramedic, being in the fire service. Like I could never operate with that kind of gross negligence and keep my job. I
Right.
would, I would be strung up. You would be strung up, Phil. Our departments would be plastered all over the magazines and the papers, and we'd be on the news outlets, and cities would be sued, and I'd be sued in some kind of civil court, and you'd be sued. I mean, we would just be just trashed. And
Everything we do in the fire service, we are held to a certain level. We are
right.
held to a certain account, right? I mean, if I was to do something illegal in my off time as
Yeah.
a regular citizen, the newspaper wouldn't say Phil Nedved did this. It would say so and so firefighter did this. And firefighters always attached. Same with law enforcement. Police officers have the same issue that we have with that.
Right.
So we always have to be on our A game, and we always have to make sure we're not the ones doing that. Because if it's you in your personal life and you get in trouble, but as soon as the department you work for gets brought into this, now it's conduct unbecoming. Now your representation of your department, and that's where we'll see people really get jammed up with issues because of that. And yet again, we'll get into conversation. We talk about Texas, but yet again, here we go. The people at the top aren't held accountable.
Nope.
The workers, the people that make things happen are always the ones that are held accountable. And it's never from the top where that happens, where they're held accountable. It's always the people doing the job that are the ones strung out to be left alone at the end of the day.
Right. You know, it makes me think of the fact that when things are going bad in your neighborhood, you know, when something bad happens, the firefighters, the police officers, the EMTs are responding. Huge. Let's look at Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Recently, we've talked about some of the things that have happened in our hometown in Rockford. And whenever you're in front of the microphones, it's hard enough to keep it all together. You're totally scrutinized. You have every outlet trying to ask questions. You're front and center, and you're almost immediately held accountable. You know, there's always going to be that terrible press conference that's going to happen after something terrible has happened. And the best we can do is have our shit dialed in and say, okay, we did the right thing. We responded in this fashion. We saved these many lives. Unfortunately, maybe we lost this amount of life, but have some understanding as to what your standard operating procedure is. And then did you apply that correctly to the situation that was unfolding? Here in this case, it is glaring as to how inadequate their preparation was, how inadequate that they were ready for something like this to happen.
I feel like the last episode we talked about poor preparation.
Yeah. Piss poor outcomes.
Yeah. That's
right.
Poor performance.
Yeah. Piss poor. Yeah.
Crazy how that works.
Yeah.
Right.
The latest one that really kind of like made my eyebrow go up. I was like, so apparently they had no drones. This is the reports that have come out this week. And again, everything is very sketchy. Even the fire chief, his wife, Helen, still demanding, you know, answers from the Secret Service as to what went wrong. It's very strange that only six agents were suspended, as you mentioned earlier, which is totally inadequate. And there doesn't seem to be full transparency. In fact, the New York Post has the wife of Corey, Helen, as saying that she says the agency allowed the shooter to operate for nearly an hour, and she wants to know why crucial security measures had failed. Not to mention the fact that there were no drones. Apparently, there were no drones operating over this field, looking down at the crowd. That's just every day. I mean,
the problem there was a drone. It was the shooter's drone.
Right.
Yeah.
But then apparently there's another thing, is that the Secret Service had a drone, and that that drone was broken, it was inoperable, and that the secret agent or the operator, I don't know if it was a secret agent for sure, but apparently the operator of that drone didn't know how to fix it and didn't report it, didn't go seek help and getting that fixed. So they just winged it. So that's what it sounds to me, is that they basically just winged it.
Unfortunately, there's only so many times I can accept your failures and coincidences of something not happening properly.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you're responsible for this. You chose not to do this, or this failure happened here. And even there's discussion of there was no reason he should have been let out onto the stage until there was an all clear, we're 100% secure, go ahead, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And the fact that they had reports of someone on a building and they were trying to get there and he was still let out on stage after that. That's where you have the issues coming in, is the glaring inadequacies in profession and ineptitude and whatever you want to call it, right?
Well, they have more
They,
checklists. They have more checklists to do for a rocket launch
yeah,
than they did for the presidential candidate at that time,
the
let alone the
leading
fact that
presidential candidate.
the leading presidential candidate, not to mention the fact that he had already actually been the president for a first term. That's the other thing too, that, kind of gets under my skin a little bit, is the disrespect. I mean, they find a way to do it at every turn. They'll talk about it in today's terms, but they'll refer to him as the candidate Trump. And it's like, well, he was already president once. In fact,
Yeah,
once you have been the president, you still get to be referred to as the
at
president,
least former president. I
former
mean,
president,
we're
right?
saying
Yeah, but in any
then
way that they can do
candidate.
it, they want to tear him down in any way that they can. And then this is just another way, I think, this is my opinion, is that those that drag their feet, I gotta say kind of clearly that I think that they would have been fine if he had lost his life. I think that there was plenty of people out there that were willing to sacrifice him and just let it, let it be what it is.
I mean, the following day, even that day, people, were commenting and saying those types of things of, we almost had him. Oh, we were so close. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
just yet again, these are the same people that I don't even want to get into it.
yeah.
It's going to be
Well,
the other
that's the
rabbit hole of the
problem, right?
sanctity of life and
It is.
everything
It
else. I
is.
mean, so
It is. It
these are the
is.
same people that throw rocks at cops' heads to
Yeah.
try and kill them. These are the same people that
Yeah.
ambush police officers in Texas. That just happened. Even though our very last episode, we had just talked about ambushes on firefighters, ambushes on a Milwaukee police officer, ambushes that happened, and then we have 3 ambushes on law enforcement in Texas, in ICE facilities
Right.
or near ICE facilities. You just can't make this stuff up anymore.
No,
You
I think that that's
can't
what we're
do it.
doing here. I think that's what we're doing here is we're highlighting more and more on original firefighters. We're saying that the first responder is held to a very, very high. We hold ourselves to high standards. I mean, I'm 51 years old. I made a choice to go back into the fire service. I'm happy to be with Whitefish Fire Department in Montana right now, and it's a great journey in and of itself. But that it comes along with, overall for my personal career, it's over 30 years of trying to make a difference, trying to be the best responder that I can be. And I know that you feel the same way about what you give and what your crew does around you, the way that you engage with them on a daily basis. It's always professional. You're trying to make a difference and you're trying to be the best responder that you can be. Now, I'm not saying that the Secret Service or any other agency isn't trying to also be the best agency out there, but it just is funny to me that the higher that we go, the less that we see in true accountability. It's like, oh, we really messed up. We're going to try to do better next time. Under this new director, Sean Curran, that's the one of the Secret Service agent. You can see that go back to that iconic image of Donald Trump surrounded on stage. He's got his fist up in the air. At the time, Secret Agent Sean Curran is in that photo, and now he is the current director of the Secret Service. Obviously, he took over for the terrible previous director, Kimberly Cheadle. She resigned weeks later. Remember, she was emphatic that she wasn't going to resign. So she didn't think that she had any accountability either. But she did resign. Now, Director Sean Curran is in place, and he basically says that um, there's been about 46 recommended reforms to the agency, and he's claiming that 21 of them have been implemented to this point in time. But there again, it's like it's always after the fact. There's always lessons learned. Again, I'm not saying, I mean, there's always lessons learned, but where is the accountability? Where
Did
is that accountability?
did you know there was a Illinois connection to Kimberly Cheadle?
There was a
She's
what?
from Illinois connection. She actually went
Oh,
to Eastern Illinois University, born in Hinsdale, and grew up in Danville, Illinois.
okay. Well, yeah,
That's
Illinois
what
sucks
that's
and
what
she
Illinois
sucks
is
too.
producing. Well, I'm not saying that. You could say that. You're a Montana resident now. I still live here, so South Dakota can't come
Yeah.
soon enough.
The people don't suck. The politics in Illinois sucks. That's what sucks. The people don't suck, but it's the leadership and the politics of Illinois and there again, the policies and the procedures under the former director of the Secret Service appear to be less than stellar. and therefore the outcome that we had in Butler, Pennsylvania. So hopefully going forward, that agency is going to get its act together. The truth needs to come out. The family of the fire chief that was killed, they need closure, they need answers, and we as a nation, we need true accountability for our confidence to come back. I mean, that's what we really need, is for the confidence to come back so that we can heal under these situations when they occur. So there you go. That's what I think about the matter so
Do
far.
you think we're going to get that? Do you think we're going to get accountability, and do you think we're going to get the truth on this?
With past being a lesson in and of itself, then I would have to say no.
I'm
And
saying
that,
no.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
look at what's currently going on with this
yeah,
whole Epstein list and Epstein files and all this different stuff.
right,
And
right,
you have sources, anonymous as they are saying that Dan Bongino is willing to move on if Pam Bondi isn't removed as AG. And Kash
yeah,
Patel is siding with Dan Bongino. If he goes, I'll go. Now, they've come out and said that's not true, but we'll see. But yet again, what a botched handling of this. And yet again, people might call, people that are conservative or MAGA or on the right as a cult, but who's the most vocal critics right now of the Trump administration? The MAGA right. It's not a cult. It's not a cult. If you can criticize hard, go hard at these people and say, like, you're failing. You are failing hard right now,
absolutely,
especially on this specific issue. When there were promises made of releasing these files, when there were things that were said where you found this and you found this and you found this, and we're clearing it out so we can release it, and then you say there's nothing. And then the video releases 11 or 12 hours of nothing, and it's not even of the cell. It's not even anywhere near, I mean, trash, what they're doing. Now, yet again, and Trump, I don't think handled it well when they brought it up. I don't like his response at all. I can see his frustration with it because he's dealing with a lot of other things and he shouldn't have to deal
right,
with this on top of it. That's why he put the people in positions to handle that stuff. He can't do everything, right?
right.
But I'm not happy with it. I don't think there's
No,
going to
I
be
think
disclosure on that. I think it's dead in the water. I think at the end of the day, if the people that were really concerned about it, that were in power, these elite, right? That doesn't exist anymore anyways. It's not hidden somewhere in a storage file. It's not hidden away. It's gone.
well,
We're
if
never
there's
going to get
something
that.
if there's something that we all know collectively, whether you're a layperson, a first responder, agencies, whether it's local, state, federal governments, they know how to create insulation around themselves. And the higher you go, the insulation rings, they get thicker, they get wider, and to a point where you can't touch anything with a 100-foot pole. And that's the issue, right? The other issue is that, we're supposed to have government oversight. There's is I put it in my notes here. Let me find it if I can. The GAO, the Government Accountability Oversight Committee, is supposed to be watching. They're the watchdogs of Congress. They're the watchdogs of everything. They're the watchdogs of every agency and how they are operating. So they're supposed to be holding everyone accountable. We, the people, have a voice, and we should be saying loud and clear, these things are not acceptable. Don't. It's not that we don't believe you. And the reason why I say it that way is because I don't want us, original firefighter, to become conspiracy theory watchdogs in and of ourselves. That's not our place. Our place is to rise to the level of saying first responders are taken advantage of too many times, too many cases. Also, to reflect upon the fact that the first responders themselves take on so much of a beating that they have to remember to take care of themselves. So we're kind of having, multiple conversations, but at the end of the day, what we want for those that we elect into our leadership positions, or even to be the fact that if you are appointed to a leadership position, for example, before we got on the show, I know that you want to have a conversation about the fire chief in Austin, Texas, who recently had a no confidence vote. And we'll get there. We'll get there. But what I'm driving at is that we are tired of getting drugged through the mud, literally and figuratively. And then when we look to the leadership at the top, when you fuck up, what's done? What is done about that situation? How is that leadership? How am I supposed to emulate something that is so grossly negligent, yet I'm supposed to hold myself and those that work with me and around me and maybe for me, how am I supposed to hold them accountable? If
Yeah.
we won't even hold the top of top officials accountable,
Yeah.
that's supposed to trickle down?
I mean, how are you held accountable when you're the person that's supposed to be holding everyone accountable? Who are you accountable
Right.
to? I
Right.
mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? I've
Yeah.
got a boss that, over me and they have a boss over them, but when you're the boss, I mean, you're running the show.
Right.
And
Right.
it's unfortunate that people take advantage of that. And you talk about true leadership. True leadership is taking accountability. And guess
Yeah.
what? If it was the members that messed up, at the end of the day, they're going to get in trouble and they're going to be held accountable. But you, as the top dog of whatever organization, you take some accountability too, because at the end of the day, those are your people. You put them out there. You either train them or you made them or you hired them or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it's on you too. And I think we
Yeah.
forget that. I'm 100% about accountability. That's what it should be. It's when we start going away from that, when we start to think that the little things just don't matter anymore, whether it's grooming standards, uniforms, it's these little things that's like, yeah, it's just a uniform. Yeah, I just didn't shave today. Or my sideburns are a little longer, my mustache a little longer than it should be. It's those little things that when we start to chip away at the little things, then the big things aren't as big of a deal anymore because there are no
Right.
little things. Those big things are now the little things that we think, well, I just crashed the truck, or I just shot someone, or someone died, right? It's no longer the big thing that it should be because there is no little thing, because we look
Right.
like trash. We're not wearing a uniform properly. We're not keeping physical fitness standards. We're not doing certain things. We need to start holding ourselves accountable on the little things so we can get back to organizations that thrive and that continue to grow.
Well, let's bring that home for a minute because that's something that we can easily discuss and obviously any first responder out there would know where we're going with this. You can't have, let's just make it very down home, very local to us. You can't have a no tolerance policy, right? You can't have a no tolerance policy. No alcohol in your system, no marijuana in your system. You're out there operating a fire truck, or let's just say that you're off duty and you get pinched for drinking and driving, right? You can't have a policy that says that there's a no tolerance, everyone's held accountable. Now, we're not saying that everybody needs to get fired on the first go around. That's usually not the case, but they are held accountable. They There's usually a pretty significant discipline component to it. They go through some kind of a treatment or rehab or reforming of their practices. So you're supposed to try to get a better employee out of the situation. You've had a bad thing happen, and so you're trying to make it so that this employee does a better job going forward. If you don't hold to those standards, you're going to have a terrible employee going forward, and everyone around is going to be like, "What the fuck? Like, why would I myself hold myself to such standard if we're not even going to apply it across the board?"
And we can still hold that person accountable, but we need to, if I'm the person that made the mistake, I need to hold myself accountable. And if I can't look in the mirror and see that reflection and say, I messed up, this one's on
Yeah.
me, and go in there and hang my head and say, this will never happen again, then
Yeah.
nothing's going to change. And guess what? This is going to be the person that there is going to be another issue later on because
Yeah.
they couldn't look in the mirror and they couldn't hold themselves accountable because someone else did it, right? It was someone else's fault, or it wasn't me, and or this is stupid. This is a stupid rule. I don't know why I'm being held accountable for this. I'm accountable. I made the mistake. I messed up. I'll take my punishment. And I'm
Yeah.
going to move on. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to try and be better every day. Every day, I'm going to be a little better, and whatever
Yeah.
that is.
And that example that I brought up is just something that's like low hanging fruit. I mean, it's in every rule and reg and city policy that you ever have to sit through or read when you either enter into a new job, which I just did. And guess what I had to do? I had to go through the same, rules and regs, procedures, and acknowledgement of things like, you know, conduct, how I'm supposed to conduct myself. as a member of the organization. So fill in the blank. We could be sitting here talking on this episode about any agency, and we talk about lots of agencies on this show. We've talked about LA. We've talked about what's gone on in North Carolina and in Florida with the hurricanes and the terrible response under the Biden administration. You actually had FEMA operators in the field saying that they were told to not go to homes that had Trump signs in their yard. I mean, that's for real.
Now we're going to
That
kick it
really
the other way,
happened.
and we got Gator Gitmo about to open, or
Right,
Alligator Alcatraz, right?
right, right,
But
right.
and today we're going to talk about Texas, and we're going to talk about Austin
Yeah,
Fire Department and local
yeah,
their local 975 there. We're going to talk
yeah,
about that because it's what the fire service is, and that happened. I mean, I'm sitting at work on Friday. That's when that came out, and I had guys, hey, did you see what Austin did? Did you see what Austin firefighters? Did you see the post that their president put up? It's like, no, I hadn't yet because I was working. I don't have social media, so I'm not on there. I read
yeah,
it. I got that information. Thankfully, those
right.
guys were there to pass that along so I could read it, being a labor leader myself. So it's definitely beneficial. So here we are. We're going to talk about another organization today. And yet again, the
Yeah,
stuff that we actually talk about at the firehouse around the kitchen table, because that was
yeah.
the topic of conversation on Friday, was
This episode is brought to you by Strike the Box Cigars, Pipes, and Tobacco. Whether you're a seasoned aficionado or just starting your journey into the world of fine tobacco, Strike the Box has what you need. From the finest cigars to premium loose leaf tobacco, Strike the Box delivers on quality in a welcoming space where you can enjoy a smoke and good company. Additionally, Strike the Box specializes in vintage pipe restoration. We're talking estate pipes brought back to life with craftsmanship that borders on art. Got Grandpa's old briar gathering dust? Let the crew at Strike the Box make it smoke like new. Check out their full list of vintage pipes for sale at striketheboxpipeandcigar.com or swing by the shop located at 6935 11th Street, New Milford, Illinois. Soak in the aroma and talk shop with real tobacco lovers from the American Fire Service. Strike the Box, where fire, flavor, and tradition meet. Again, that's striketheboxpipeandcigar.com or swing by the shop located at 6935 11th Street, New Milford, Illinois.
Absolutely. Well, as we round this part out, just for our listeners and viewers, that we want to hear from you. Are you satisfied with how the Secret Service, the FBI, the DOJ, and their response to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life a year ago? Also, please, acknowledge the fact that there was true loss of life at that event, that he was a fire chief, and our hearts and thoughts that go out to his family. And we hope that they do get the justice and the service that they deserve. But we would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment on what you think and what you want to see going forward on any of this type of conversation that we're having here. Swinging over to Texas, Phil, you brought it up, so why don't you jump off with that? Obviously, things in Texas are very, very terrible.
Yeah, I mean, they're still working through everything right now. Death toll up over 120 as of recording this, 129 is the death toll. Still searching for the missing. There's over 100 people still missing there. Kerr County was hit the hardest, which is right northwest of San Antonio. So big area that had at least 103 deaths so far.
Yeah.
36 of which were children. So our hearts and prayers go out to those people, and that's not an empty thing. You hear that all the time, hearts and prayers, sending prayers.
Yeah.
But, for me, it really is prayers because I do take that stuff seriously. But yeah, so knowing that they're still doing as much as they can out there and still searching and unfortunately they've had to have transitioned. They did, not they have to. They did transition over to recovery
Right.
at this point.
Yeah.
You can only keep those rescue operations going on for so long. So they're going to have to deal with that moving forward. But one thing I did want to bring up talking about that is U.S. Coast Guard member Scott Ruskin, who is a Chad. Let's call him a Chad. What an incredible story that was. He had over 165 people that he helped effect rescues for. Thinking, man, that's crazy. He's a 26-year-old dude and part of the Coast Guard, a rescue swimmer with the Coast Guard. So the elite
Wasn't it his first mission, wasn't it?
first mission.
Yeah.
First mission.
Yeah.
This guy needs to be on recruitment posters all around. And especially
Absolutely.
hearing his story, right? I mean, he's been in the Coast Guard for a few years now, I think 3 years. So was in finance prior to that.
Right.
And decided he wanted to go a different route to become a rescue swimmer. I feel like our audience has to have seen the movie The Guardian. I mean, it's like a normal rite of passage, like any fire movie in the fire service. It's The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah. Well, he
But
deserves the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
100%.
Now I know that he's in service, so that's the highest. It's the highest civilian award that can be given out, and but he's probably deserving of about every
Some sort of
reward
medal
that's out
from the
there.
Coast Guard, right?
Right,
100%.
right. The medal, the Medal of Valor or whatever. Yeah, and I'm assuming that we will see more of him.
Well, the biggest thing with him, he's already spoken, right? He's already been interviewed, and his responses have been, "We did this,
Yeah,
and the
we.
Coast Guard did this, and the team
Yep.
did this."
Right.
It's never about him. He's a
Right.
very humble person. You hope, yet again, never been in that position. Hope I would react the same way, but that those are his responses. It makes him even cooler, man. Like I want to hang out with this guy,
Oh, for sure.
to see what his thoughts were and his experience. And I mean, got a sick mustache too. He can be a fireman, I bet. We got a lot of dive teams on there, so that'd
Yeah.
be cool. But yeah, I just thought that what a, as terrible of a thing as that was, right? This whole incident, we can still look at some of the bright spots that come from it, and this is a member of our U.S. military, and this is hopefully
Yeah.
the future of the U.S. military and people like him starting to join again, or if they're already in, you know, I want to give this guy praise, and I want to give the people that do their job and are professionals and proficient, effective, efficient at their jobs. I don't know if you saw what I did there. I spells
Yeah.
proficient, efficient, effective. So that's my new thing at work is I'm like, boys, we're going to get our P on today. We're going to be proficient,
All
efficient, and
right.
effective. Because you can't be proficient. If you're not proficient, you're not going to be efficient or effective. And if you're not effective, you're not going to be efficient or proficient. If you're not efficient, you're not proficient or effective. Yeah, it's what it is. What it is. Kind of confused myself there on that, but
We might
that's
want to edit some of that.
yeah. But to me,
I think
that
you bring, if you don't mind, I want to come back to something that you said. You did reference the fact that this is a member of the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is a part of a branch of our military. And, I think it's interesting how in this context, the context of the fact that it was a military person on our homeland saving lives like you couldn't even believe, right? And everyone's gleeful about that. Like they're like so enthralled with this story, and the cheers and the hands are going up and just praising this individual who is a part of the military on the homeland saving lives. Now you flip the script, and there's a whole nother group of military at our homeland that are getting shelled and just bombastic things being said about them because they're operating and doing what they're told to do, being directed to do their job. It's because it doesn't fit the narrative, those individuals get scalded.
right. That's the thing is do what you're trained to do your job, do it well. That's all people want, and that's holding yourself accountable at the end of the day
Yeah.
too, right?
And
Because in order
sometimes that job sucks.
yeah,
The job that you have to do, whether you're an ICE agent, whether you are a part of the National Guard deployed to LA, whether you are in the Marines and you were put in a logistics support role in LA to back up those National Guard members, whether you are in the Coast Guard in Texas making rescue after rescue after rescue, okay, you're doing the job. You're doing what you're told to do. But you're doing what you're trained to do. And again, I mean, this swings in so many different ways. Some of those things that are being done out there in our country right now are being directed by laws that have been created and passed by our law making officials of this land. And yet when they go to apply the law, they get blasted. They're not supported, and they're left out to hang. And that's that we should highlight that as much as we should highlight the fact that there are these individuals that are doing incredible things to save lives. And I think at the end of the day, all of it together, the summation of all of it is to save lives. Whether you're saving them in Texas, whether you're saving children in fields in California that shouldn't be in those fields working, slice it however you want to slice it. The majority of us out there in a first response type organization, you are trying to save lives.
Right. That's all it is. And it's doing your job, doing it well. This guy was trained well. He did his job well, right? Like, and that's the biggest thing. He's like most of us in the fields and first response and medical, law enforcement, fire, military. I would say a vast majority of us, people say, thank you for your service. It's like, thanks. And I never knew how to respond to that because I'm just doing the job that I decided I wanted at a very young age. I'm doing the job that I was trained to do. I took the oath, more than happy to take that oath. I don't need a thank you at the end of the day, but it's appreciated, right?
Sure.
But it's not expected or shouldn't be. So when you do a good job, you should be doing it for yourself, right?
Right.
Because you're proud. I'm proud of the work that I do. I'm proud of the effort that I put in every day I put on the uniform and representing the organization that I represent. I'm just proud to do it, right? If you're proud to do it, you're going to do it well. You're going to train. You're going to be prepared. You're not going to have that piss poor preparation. So you're not going to have piss poor performance. You're going to perform to the level that you were made to do and meant to do every day you put on the uniform if you're proud. I'm sure he's proud of his service. He's proud of what he did. And he did it because he was trained to do it. And that's why his response is what it is. We did this. The U.S. Coast Guard did this. We responded and did this. It's a team effort every time. It's not about me. I'm not an individual. I'm part of a group, right? Whether it's my truck company or whether it's the organization that I represent, we did this together. We all did it. It wasn't one individual that one individual might have done something stellar that stood out, but everybody else was doing their job too to make that person as effective as they could have been in that position. The people that trained him to do it, the pilots that got him there to do it.
This episode of the original Firefighter Podcast is sponsored by Castle Contracting. Castle Contracting offers commercial and residential restoration, leading the industry in roofing, residential siding, gutters and downspouts, egress window installation, storm damage assessment and repair, and solar energy, saving you money and time. If you want to be treated like royalty, contact Castle Contracting to schedule a free inspection. Call them at 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. That's 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. Serving Illinois, Wisconsin, and Kentucky, Castle Contracting has you covered. Your home is your castle. Call Castle Contracting today.
So, good for him. Pat on the back.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we mentioned that what we're talking about here is that, Central Texas over the 4th of July weekend, they had, flash floods that basically engulfed the Guadalupe River, as you said, Phil, devastating the Kerr County area. And then we can't forget the Camp Mystic, where, tragedy of the children that were lost. As of today, I'm finding that the Daily Beast is reporting 129 people have died, 166 still missing statewide. Like we said, Camp Mystic alone saw 27 confirmed fatalities. And then, so basically what I'm seeing in the response at the local level is that Governor Abbott activated a level 2 state operations center, deploying 2,200 personnel, 1,200 vehicles, Central Texas, including the Texas A&M Task Force 1, 2, and 3, and the Texas National Guard. Obviously, they also are a part of the rescue and recovery effort. Houston Fire Department sent specialized USAR teams. FEMA, under the direction of the Department of Homeland Security, they did respond. And I'll come back to that in a second, because there's been some pushback on that, but I think that there's some clarity to it. We talked about the Coast Guard and the amazing work that they did to rescue so many people, but also that many of the urban search and rescue teams across the country, to include California, Ohio, Minnesota, and as of recently, within the last 48 hours, I believe that Illinois Task Force 1 was deployed just a couple days ago to respond as a Type 3 team down there. The United Cajun Navy, the Team Rubicon, Samaritan's Purse, and other volunteers. We're looking at over hundreds of volunteers that are helping to support what's going on in Texas right now. All this combined is just an amazing, amazing response effort. Now, if we swing to FEMA, and this was something that was discussed on a previous episode, and actually it was our engineer, Aaron Bybee, who had asked me a question about what can people expect in a natural disaster. And I had made a comment that said, you have to expect that you're on your own for at least 72 hours. And I specifically used that number of hours, basically 3 days, right? Because everyone, it's easy to think that, okay, bad thing happens. I'm using very rudimentary words here. Bad thing happens. And then who is going to help me out? First of all, your local response teams, your fire, your police, your medical is going to respond, and know that they are going to be inundated within hours. I mean, they will be so overrun. It's not even funny. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be prepared, which you should be prepared. But let's make it clear here on this episode that local response is going to be so inundated. They're basically going to be doing the best that they can, right? To the level that they can do it. State preparations for this type of situation, or state preparations for any other natural occurring disaster or a man-made disaster. A little bit harder to know when that's going to happen. But with the natural disasters, and we can see that, playing out in our wildland fires, what happened in LA, they keep coming back to that. Go back to the hurricanes of 2024. Local and state are going to be overwhelmed. And so it kicks up to the federal level. Well, the fact that the Department of Homeland Security is kind of getting scrutinized right now, because they're basically saying that FEMA had a slow response, and the slow response is, guess what it is? 72 hours. There's that number again, right? They clearly, the federal level tells state and local officials and responders, you need to be self-sufficient for about 72 to 96 hours. Getting the federal government engaged to this level at all these agencies and all these acronyms to get them deployed into any region across the country is like trying to turn a large cruise ship on a dime. It doesn't work like that. We want it. We wish it did. We wish it could, but it's a juggernaut. That's what should be reported, is that it is so tough to get it. It's organized. It's not chaotic. It's not as chaotic as what people probably think. Like, oh, they were so disorganized, and they didn't have the deployment resources, and they were delayed because of procurement rules. No, it just does take time. It's not complicated. It takes time.
Right. Well, people need to remember too that, first off, when has government ever been efficient? Can we go back to that, right? I mean, like, we want big government, even though we know it can't handle the job and can't do the job, but we continue to ask, Daddy, give me more, right? Like, the efficiency part of government is not there, has never been there. The other part is, first you need to request. Then you need to mobilize and gather the resources, and then you need to deploy. So it's not like this is happening right now. Hey, you requested us, we're leaving. We've been waiting. Thanks for calling for us. No.
Right.
The request has to come, and if there's any delay to that, yet again, we kind of talked about it last episode, what happened in New Orleans. They refused to request, even though they were told, hey, we're here, we're ready, what do you need? We're good, we're fine, we don't need you. From New Orleans mayor to the governor of Louisiana, they waited way too long, and then that's what happened. And then how do you get those resources there? That's why there was such a delay there, because they weren't requested. So now add those other things on, mobilize, get all the resources, now deploy. That takes time. Like you said, it's a big ship trying to turn. It can't. It's not going to do it.
Absolutely.
And yet again, it's still the government. So even if I think I can mobilize and do this, I'm one person, right? Yet again, it's a big machine. There's nothing effective about big machines.
Well, and look at too, and this is overlooked. Look at the fact that some of these states do it really, really well, because they do it very, very often.
Right.
Okay. Trying to stand up the California USAR team, assuming that they call it Task Force One. You swing over to the East Coast, trying to stand up anything coming out of Maryland or Washington, D.C., New York City, New York State or whatever. And these are states that see this stuff all the time. So getting their teams mobilized, and when we say mobilized, we're talking again, it's not just the equipment and getting it all stacked and properly put onto flatbed trucks and getting all the tow hitches and the tow trucks all in line and gassed up, fueled up, all the food that has to go with these teams, the water, sanitation, decontamination is a huge part of this whole equation when these teams go out, because they have to have a way to stay healthy themselves, because otherwise, a responder that gets sick is going to be pretty bad at his, he's not going to be able to do much good there. So these things take time. Then we also have to look into the fact that the individuals themselves have to make preparations for their families. They have to be sworn in. They have to make sure that they're, up to date on probably a number of things, not just certifications, but probably their health checks and making sure that they're ready to go. This is not something that just snap of a finger happens. So people got to get it through their head. There's always going to be a delay when there is this large scale type incident, this loss of life. And everyone's always looking for someone, and they should, not saying that they shouldn't. If there's accountability to be had, we should know who that is, and then we should hold those accountable. This, to me, I don't know where that goes. Again, like I said, there's been attempts already to try to get the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security on the hook for they call it the slow response. It's like, no, it's actually pretty normal.
Yeah.
It's normal.
And again, look back to every other major incident, disaster we've had in the past 20 years. You're not going to find anything faster on it.
Yeah. And if you can speed it up, if there are ways to speed it up, sure. I mean, that's fine. And if you can stage things in areas, I'm starting to learn that here in Montana. This is, again, I just want to be honest and clear that I've never lived in the state of Montana, and I have not been exposed to the wildland firefighting effort that goes on in the Pacific Northwest or this area of the country. And I'm intrigued by it. I'm actually blessed to have a chance to understand what it's all about and to do my best to be a part of it. And I'll learn as I go and be prepared as best as I can. Those that I see out here that are ready to go, I mean, I've already seen it for myself. At the local level, I see the firefighters that I work with. They've got their wildland gear ready alongside their structural firefighting gear. They're checking reports every day. They're looking to see where the regions of the state are starting to have some problems, whether it be the heat, any kind of dryness that's occurring, or just the fact that there are wildland fires that are burning in the state of Montana. I was looking at some reports the other day. There's at least 3 of them that are going on. And what they do is they do move assets around to have strike teams and task forces and air units and that nature to be staged in areas that they think might be a possibility for those things to occur. But again, this is best reporting. It's trying to figure out where can the best resources be staged, or how can we prepare an area for what might happen. Now swing down to what happened in LA this year, and it's like they knew weeks prior. There was at least a 2-week period where they were like, yeah, things are not looking very good. There was real potential. Wind was going to be really strong. It was going to be really dry. And it looks to me like they kind of, when I say the top levels of the government of the state of California, to include the mayor of Los Angeles, they kind of just ignored it, it seems like. So I don't know what accountability has been had there. It doesn't look like much.
Nothing, because she's out protesting, yelling at National Guardsmen to go home. You're not wanted here.
Right.
Get out of our state.
But they want them, I can guarantee you they want them in Texas now, don't they?
Yeah, it's good.
So where does that bring us into what's happened in Austin, Texas?
So I think
now with the Austin
we're starting to see something similar with the Austin fire chief. So Austin's firefighter local 975 recently had a vote of no confidence in the chief over the issues with response to the flooding. So they currently have 1,300 members. and they had a vote of 93% of the members that actually voted, which is about 995 around there. Members actually voted in the vote of no confidence. 93% passed, took a vote of no confidence in the chief, which is quite a big number, if you ask me. So the reasoning for the vote is the response to the floods. They felt like it was not enough. The main reason is because the chief denied a request for mutual assistance or aid to other neighboring communities that might have needed their assistance days prior to the flood. July 2nd, July 3rd, denied the request. Going back, it's going to be a budget thing. It's a money thing yet again. So here we are again talking about money being a priority. So the union president accused the fire chief of incompetence, not malice, but incompetence, of refusing this assistance, which caused people to lose their lives, essentially, in the area. The problem is the mayor is now siding with the fire chief, saying, he's good at his profession. They spoke with the Texas Division of Emergency Management, said that they've gone above and beyond, and that may be true on some aspects. But the fact that they refused assistance to other neighboring communities over budget thing. Now the chief is coming out and saying, that's my fault. I should have been more clear with my team. We should have taken it a case-by-case basis and not just rejected outright anyone that requested assistance. The problem with that is you're admitting fault now. So what's your accountability here? Because you weren't clear with your team. If I'm not clear with my team on something and there's an issue, I'm going to be held accountable for it, especially if there's loss of life. Huge accountability there. Right? Whether it's one of our own or whether it's a resident that we're there to protect. So we've already admitted, we've already said it's my fault and I should have done this. I should have been more clear. But the reason they didn't do it was because of, yet again, budget things. Right. The biggest problem with that is the mayor can go and say, we support the chief and he made the right decision and he's done everything right. But then I want to thank the firefighters out there and the first responders because they're safety pros and they're heroic. Well, at the same time, coming up on a budget shortfall, and you're going to affect the staffing of those first responders, whether it's law enforcement or whether it's fire department. So yet again, what's the importance here? And unfortunately, Austin is the Portland of Texas. Right, so or the San Francisco of Texas, or whatever you want to call it. That is,
it's become
Austin.
that.
Keep Austin weird, right? Well, you're keeping it weird, and your homeless population is through the roof, and your drug crime is through the roof, and your citizens that use and abuse drugs is through the roof because you don't do anything about it. So what happens is, so now we dump a bunch of funding into these types of programs rather than our public safety programs. There's nothing wrong with those programs. Now, I want to be clear on that. I'm not knocking that, but what are the priorities? The priority should always be public safety. Number one, ask any resident of any city, overwhelmingly the response is going to be public safety. And when you're putting a budget on public safety, then you're going to have things that happen. And this is where I get really upset, because you're saying it's not as important as what you think it is, especially as a mayor, as a politician, as a governor, as a president, as a whatever, it's not as important. You can push that and say that this is what we believe, but at the end of the day, to put your money where your mouth is, and that's exactly what it is. Where is the budget going to? And if you have anything that it shouldn't be going to, there's needs and there's wants. Public safety is a need. It is a necessity for the citizens. And like I said, it's something that they overwhelmingly support. Fire service, EMS, police. Those are the three things they want. And then what comes next? Roads, take care of infrastructure. You have those things after that, but it's always number one. Public safety is always the number one thing. So when you put a price tag on someone's public safety, you have these issues that now occur. I would say that the chief is at fault. I would have voted no confidence in that chief also. He put a priority on budget rather than safety and lives, especially in that instance.
Yeah, you have to do that. You have to, when I say you have to, if I was a member of that local, and let's just say that happened to a different state, a different city that maybe I was a part of, maybe you were in the same context, same circumstances, I would vote no confidence. Here's the way I look at it too. The firefighters themselves, and we want to acknowledge in this episode that we know that the response to this situation in Texas goes far beyond firefighters. It includes firefighters. It includes first responders, National Guard, our military, and so many volunteers. So it goes beyond just firefighters. But let's keep it to the context of the firefighter conversation, which is we're talking about a major city in a major state, a large department, and overwhelming voted no confidence against their chief. I think the holdout was like 31 people, 36 people, something like that, that voted, they sided with the fire chief. Very, very, very small fraction that sided with the fire chief. I have to imagine that the majority of Austin firefighters saw a situation unfolding in real time and to themselves saying, we can do something about, we can be a part of the effort to do something about this situation and do it in a way, because this is always a sacrifice. We acknowledge that when you respond out of your response area, you are leaving your area vulnerable, potentially. And this is where departments, municipalities, local, state, and federal governments have to step up and backfill those positions and do the right thing. Do the right thing. Yes, it is going to cost money, but we're always trading lives for money, or we're trading lives for reputations. What really would piss me off is that if I'm in Austin and I'm looking at Kerr County, it is by Google Maps, it's a 2 hour and 38-minute response. It's a 2 hour and 38-minute drive, if you will, to Austin, from Austin to Kerr County. So I can imagine that Austin was like, we need to get there. We need to give them a helping hand. Now, how is it that Houston Fire Department, they sent specialized USAR and tactical teams to assist Kerr County? Houston is 4.5 hours from Kerr County. So Houston figured it out.
Right.
But not Austin.
Well, and unfortunately, the chief had no response to it. The spokesperson for the fire department said that Chief Baker remains focused on the task of running the fire department and keeping the city safe.
Absolutely.
Until
totally understand
we
that.
don't have the money for it, then we have to, right? Because that's exactly what it is. All the departments, they're going to be facing cuts to their budgets because of budget shortfalls. Yet again, where's the money going to? As a tax-paying resident, I would be frustrated with that. Yet again, you're going to get the service you pay for. If you pay high taxes, hopefully you get a better service. Not always the case. But when you're talking about cutting budgets, what is the overwhelming cost of any department budget? The personnel, right? So what is going to get cut at the end of the day? Unfortunately, I hope it's not the personnel.
But it usually is.
Usually is. And maybe it's not even the people that are there. Maybe it's through attrition, right? We have 120 vacancies. We're just not going to fill those vacancies, which means mandatory overtime for all those people that continue to work to now put a stress on your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health. At the end of the day, continuing to work harder and harder with less and less. Less backup. So we want to go and say how heroic you are and thank you for your service, but fuck you, I'm taking your budget. Sorry for the language. This is where I get hot. I just like I can't understand it.
Well, I do as well, and I have to imagine that those of us in the first responder community, and that's what this show is for. This platform is for, to support the firefighters and everybody in the first response community, to say we are not stupid. We always remember. We remember when politicians tell us how valuable we are and then undercut us.
Yep.
I mean, it's always happening. And, how whatever can be done at the fraction of a cost, whether it's in, and that's how, here at Original Firefighter, we get a little bit heated about the fact that we want to be true to the mental health cause for first responders, the fact that it has become a highlighted issue within the first responder community and the need for it. But how can you balance that? How can you save the mental health and wellness of firefighters if you're always cutting the fundamental needs of what they need to do their job? To be backed up, to have a partner, to have proper staffing, to have equipment that is working, and there's preparation for replacing old equipment or dying equipment, if you will. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to the whole situation, and I get it. It comes down to taxpayer resources. I get what they have to do to levy those things against the budgets. I understand that. I would rather stop bullshitting just so that you can get talking points on TV. Nobody wants to hear it anymore. We
Right.
know what you're doing. We already know that there's a canned script that comes out. If you're the fire chief of Austin or the mayor of LA, you're in self-survival mode in these situations, and you'll pull out the rehearsed canned statements that will get you through the moment while the boots on the ground are in the muck digging people out of the mud.
So I just want to say this. I understand the reason for fire administrations, the chief, and all the chiefs
Yep.
underneath them, whether it's training, administration, operations, those things. I
It's not
understand. I
easy.
appreciate those jobs. But at the end of the day, the people that are doing the job that they're thanking for putting themselves in harm's way and going out and responding to that alarm. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, regardless if there's a chief or not, the tones go off, the job is still going to get done. At the end of the day, 99% of the work is done by the people at the bottom. We're the ones going in, we're doing it, we're putting all that effort in. Thanks for facilitating the training today. Thanks for facilitating what our lineup is going to be. But at the end of the day, we're still doing the job. We're doing the job that the citizens see. We're the ones representing this department. And when you don't have our backs, we're not going to have yours. And that's why I'm happy they decided to have that vote of no confidence in their chief.
Yeah. I think that this is a message we can send out so that we are clear that we do support fire chiefs and that every department has to have some kind of an administration.
I hope you support your fire chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not trying to save my own ass. I mean, if I'm here to say what I need to say and what I want to say. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel strongly about that. And I'm good with that. I'm good with what we can do for the first response community at Original Firefighter. We're going to stand up and say the right thing and do the right thing. Those that are in powers of the positions of power, the fire chief himself and his executive team, it does not mean that you're not the right person for the job. You can still have things go wrong. You can have a messy situation with a kind of a mucked up response. It does not mean that you're the wrong person for the position or for the situation. What can be said, two things can be true. You can say, I'm the right person for the job, but you have to understand that this is an unprecedented situation and we are doing the very best that we can. Let me show you how. Let me show you what we have done. This rehearsed response of, well, I have to protect the citizens of Austin, Texas, or fill in the blank. I have to do these things. Yeah, we know that. That's why you're the fire chief.
Yeah.
But you also have to do other extraordinary things in extraordinary times.
Well, the pure fact that this vote of no confidence took place, again, I'm not on Austin Fire Department, not a member of their local. I don't know anyone that is.
Total respect to the Austin firefighters.
I would have to assume that this is not the first incident, and that's why there was a vote of no confidence.
Right. Yeah, usually it's not a one-off.
This is not a one-time thing, I'm sure. Yet again, don't know that for sure. Allegedly, can we say allegedly? We don't want to get sued by the city of Austin.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly. Allegedly, there was a list on Pam Bondi's desk.
Pam Bondi seems like a terrible person. Allegedly. I don't know. But I would assume that this isn't the first time of some sort of incident to occur with the union leadership and the fire department leadership.
Probably not. But, again, we don't know that, but they chose to take a stand. I mean, look at it that way.
Big step.
Regardless. Oh, yeah.
That's one thing that we have, that when we talk about holding people accountable as a labor group, it's not, I can't suspend the chief. I can't put a verbal letter into the chief's file. I can't, give him some days off or some days unpaid. But what I can do is I can file a grievance, or I can file an unfair labor practice. I can maybe cost them a little bit there. But what I really can do is the nuclear option is a vote of no confidence. I mean, there's no coming back from that. How do you work with that person in the future? Hopefully, for the firefighter's sake, for the fire department's sake, for the citizen's sake, there's some way that they can come to future relationships and work together for the future. With the vote of no confidence, it's going to be hard. That relationship is strained, if not damaged, potentially to the point of not being able to repair it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then they probably won't. I mean, if the percentage had been a little bit different, like a 60-40, something of that nature, but I think they sent a very, very, very clear message.
52 to 48 would have probably been,
Yeah. So I think this has been a very valuable conversation. We've acknowledging, it is the 1 year or around the 1 year anniversary of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life, and also the ongoings, the catastrophe disaster in Texas. Basically, at the end of the day, our message is holding accountability where it's necessary, having the self-respect that you're ready to do the job whenever it may call you to do it, and do it in the worst situations. And that's what first responders are doing day in and day out. And a lot of times it's in spite of the lack of leadership and the lack of support, unfortunately. So with that, we do want to make a quick comment. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, not all superheroes wear capes, because Superman just came out in theaters, right?
Yeah.
Some of them have really, really sick looking mustaches, like U.S. Coast Guard member Scott Ruskin. I just want to say that. Thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And we want to congratulate him on a successful mission. And I'm sure he's doing plenty out there along with his team. But with that, just want to make a quick, just a kind of a acknowledgement that we also at Original Firefighter are approaching our 50th episode. So, we made a decision a year ago to launch this business. We said that we were going to release an episode once a week. We know that we're pre-recording, so just bear with us on that. So we try to be timely as best we can. We appreciate those that are listening and viewing our podcast each and every week. You can obviously find us on YouTube. Hit that bell and subscribe. That's the best way to help Original Firefighter. And listening to us on all the podcast platforms that you get your podcasts on. Please like and subscribe and follow our channels. Also, remember, you can go to originalfirefighter.com and gain merchandise that we wear on the show, to include the caps, the shirts. And remember that we give back 5% to mental health and wellness to local, state, and federal agencies and organizations that help mental health and wellness. We do this on an annual basis, and we try to make sure that we acknowledge those organizations that we give to. So you can always hit us up for that. Any information that you would want to ask us about, to where our dollars and cents go, we are transparent, and we hope that you will support us as we support the first responder community. And so with that, we'll wrap up with the Texas response, the human toll, the massive coordination and heroic responders out there that are doing the job. We are always thinking about what's happening there in Texas and across the country whenever natural disasters are occurring. We just hope for the best recovery possible. So with that, we just want to make sure that you're always out there taking care of yourself, and be safe.
This has been the Original Firefighter Podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. Tune in each week on Wednesdays for a new episode. Like and follow us on all social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel today.